Goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals, Quality Education, describes STEM and STEAM curriculum. There are currently two educational approaches to teaching children in the U.S., the STEM curriculum and the STEAM curriculum. STEM focuses on educating students in 4 specific disciplines: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEM incorporates these principles into a cohesive paradigm that encourages motivation, engagement, and employs real-world applications. STEAM adds the arts to education and uses the 5 points to guide student inquiry, dialogue, and critical thinking. STEM supporters believe that curriculum naturally involves the arts. Examples include product design and the communication skills needed for language arts. STEAM supporters say incorporating the arts into the other disciplines devalues arts' importance. These two forms of teaching are not too different from each other. Exploring opportunities where art naturally fits into the STEM narrative can help create a healthy balance. Treating art as an applied subject, such as math and science, will give students a new discipline to learn that can also be applied to real-world situations. Design classes can help students learn how to create logos and organize information into presentations. Performing arts, like drama and speech, can help translate into technical writing and persuasive writing skills, which are abilities used in technology-driven and marketing career fields. Creative planning calls for students to use the right side of their brain to think outside of the box, which can come in handy when needing to create content and innovative thinking. Science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics are all important factors that make up the curriculum. Being able to learn about all of them will lead to well-rounded and versatile professionals.
So we have Dr. Adedayo A.Olofinnika as our next speaker for this session. He's the founder of King House International School, and he holds a PhD in early childhood education from Obafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria. Dr. Olofinnika is an expert in early childhood education and development with over 10 years experience in education and research. He's a member of Early Childhood Association of Nigeria, and also a member of World Organization of Early Childhood Education and Global Education Research Nigeria. He's also a member of Doctoral Academy of Nigeria. He has published several academic papers in the field of education, both in national and international journals. Please help me to welcome Dr. Olofinnika. Dr. Olofinnika, you're welcome to this conference.
Yeah, thank you once again. Just like you've heard, I'm into early childhood development and education. And I must also say that I really enjoyed all the previous sessions. They have been very insightful. It's a very educating conference indeed, I must say. So just like my topic says, effective integration of virtual learning instructional delivery in schools, readiness for the future. So in these presentations, basically we have the introduction to virtual learning. I'll talk about what is virtual learning. I'll talk about technological tools and platforms. I'll talk about current states in schools. I'll talk about the factors for effective integration. Then we'll also look at the case studies and best practices before we round off with the future readiness of schools, and then the few recommendations that we have. First slide, please. Okay, the first slide, the next one, please. Okay, thank you. So looking at virtual learning, we remember very well that the COVID-19 outbreak in 2019/2020, it's brought about globally moving from the traditional educational system of face-to-face learning to virtual learning. And the development had brought about increase in adoption all over the world, across the world. This switch from the face-to-face to the online learning has really shed light on the capabilities, the limitations of virtual instruction. We see this transition to virtual learning that was spurred by the outbreak back then has reshaped educational practices across the globe. The transformation has introduced new possibilities, challenges, that's brought about different considerations as to instructional delivery all over the world. Now, virtual learning is so important in the sense that it enhances accessibility to education. It fosters personalized learning experience from the elementary school to the higher institution. It equips students and learners with essential digital skills that are actually very, very necessary for the future. Now, while we're looking at this lecture, this paper, basically, we see that the import of the topic is about looking at, since the COVID-19 pandemic, brought about a kind of catalytic change and global shift into the distance learning. Like, according to the records, in April, by the time it was April 2020, 1.6 billion learners were affected by school closures worldwide because of the pandemic. And that compelled educators all over the world, across the globe, even schools, to rapidly adopt new technologies and teaching methods, knowing that the children, were kept indoors. Many educators at that time struggled to adapt to, virtual platforms. Many students, were disengaged, and then you see they could not provide timely feedback, and then it was a real problem at that time. So the shift towards virtual learning is not a temporary trend. It's going to be a continuous thing. It's a fundamental change in the way education is delivered. Effective integration of virtual learning offers opportunities, for personalized instruction, increased access to educational resources, and the development of digital literacies. So just like I said, we see virtual learning. If we're going to define virtual learning, you say virtual learning, every form of instructional mode that is taking place through digital facilities. The next slide. Virtual learning refers to educational process that occur through digital platforms, and then it allows distance education. It encompasses various instructional methods, and not just that. We see that there are certain aspects of virtual learning. We see the scope covering between what we call the synchronous learning, which is having access to the teachers and the students learning, interacting in real time. And we also have the asynchronous ones, the asynchronous learning, where the students have access to materials and then they can complete their assignments at their own pace. Then the third one is the blended learning. It's a kind of a hybrid model. It incorporates both the online and the in-person instruction. And then now let's look at technological tools and platforms. We have the learning management systems. We have platforms now like the Moodle, Google Classrooms, Canvas. All these, they facilitate course content organization and delivery. They support both the synchronous and the asynchronous learning. We have the video conferencing tools, just like we are having this conference, STEAM 2024. We have the Zoom, making it possible for us to interact in real time. We have Microsoft Teams. We have the Google Meet that enables real-time interaction, and then it enhances students' engagement and then collaboration during virtual lessons. We have the online assessment platforms, we have the Kahoot, the popular one, Squeeze. We have the Google Forms. They allow creation and administration of assessments, ensuring immediate feedback and data analytics. And then last but not least, we have the content creation tools, software like Canva, Adobe Spark. We have the Edpuzzle. They assist educators and schools in creating engaging and interactive content. And we'll see all these are very, very vital in the virtual learning space as they, enhance learning experiences. Let's see the next slide. That's the current state of virtual learning in schools. Now we want to see the adoption rate and trends. Adoption of virtual learning varies widely. The developed countries, they already show a kind of very high rate of adoption of virtual learning and deployment of virtual learning in schools. But in developing countries, especially in Africa, a lot of countries and a lot of locations are still struggling to be able to adopt virtual learning. By 2020, many schools shifted to hybrid models due to the pandemic, and we see rural areas being the mostly affected. Those developing countries, they face significant technological barriers where there are no internet access, or where they are available, they are very poor. There are other areas where it's power problem. There's usually power outage that are really, really affecting the deployment of virtual learning. The challenges faced in integration, we see digital divides, inadequate infrastructure, and then some of the teachers, they lack training in virtual learning instruction methods. Some older people are finding it very hard to switch. They've been used to a learning method all their life, so it's kind of difficult, and that's a whole lot of barrier on its own. Okay, now let's see the factors influencing effective integration of virtual learning. Factors, the next slide, please. The factors influencing virtual learning. We see the first one is infrastructural readiness. Just like I mentioned earlier, school must ensure reliable internet access and up-to-date hardware to support diverse learning activities, along with robust cybersecurity measures to protect students or learners' data. We're talking about the teacher preparedness. Just like I said, there should be professional development programs like in-house training, in-service training for teachers and handlers in the educational institutions to equip educators with skills for effective virtual instruction. That can include training on digital tools and online classroom management. Talking about the curriculum adaptation, the curricula should be restructured for virtual delivery. We must infuse and incorporate interactive digital resources and integrate digital literacy to prepare learners for the digital world. Student engagement strategies. There must be innovative strategies like gamification, interactive contents, collaborative projects, that would maintain students' learners' interest and motivates them while they're in the virtual environment, particularly young learners. Those are very, very important to be able to keep up with the infrastructure in that part. Now let's look at case studies and best practices in virtual learning deployments. Case studies, and the next slide, please. Right. So, like the Los Angeles Unified School District, you see they developed a comprehensive virtual. That's in the US. They developed a comprehensive virtual learning plan during the pandemic. In fact, most of the developed countries or nations of the world, they already have some structures in place that by the time the pandemic broke out, it was easier for them to switch over to virtual learning, unlike developing nations of the world where they are still lagging behind in preparing infrastructures. You see, they focused on teacher training and student support services during the COVID-19 pandemic. In Finland as well, they had this digital education model. They successfully integrated digital tools into education system from the elementary stage to higher institution to tertiary stage, facilitating a seamless transition to virtual learning environments. And we see these are things that other nations of the world must get ready and, keep abreast, so that should in case anything like that would happen maybe in the future, then it will be easy to continue education without any hitch whatsoever. So now, what are the lessons learned? We see the key takeaway from virtual learning deployment from all the successful implementations we have in the US, in Finland, and other nations, China, is number one, there must be early investments in digital infrastructure. There's a need for continuous teacher training. The value of involving all stakeholders, parents, teachers, the learners, in the planning and implementation process is very vital. Schools should also prioritize equity in the access to virtual learning in order to ensure that all students benefit from virtual learning opportunities. And then before I come to a close, we must get ready for the future now. The future of education will likely involve a greater reliance on virtual learning and hybrid models. Schools must be prepared to adapt to these changes by continuously updating their technological infrastructures, the curriculum, the teaching methods, and all that, so that the integration of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, as it is common these days, virtual reality, all this may also play a very important role in the future of virtual learning. So now, the policy recommendations. Policymakers must also prioritize funding for digital infrastructure. They must also establish national standard so that there'll be no, anyone left behind. There must be proper funding for digital infrastructure. The national standard must, help ensure consistent quality across schools all over the nation. And then there must be collaboration between educational technology companies and schools and governments. Schools should partner with educational technology companies to develop and implement effective virtual learning solutions. And last but not the least, ongoing professional development. There must be a continuous training for educators, to keep pace with technological advancement and the changing pedagogical approaches. In conclusion, the integration of virtual learning into schools is not just a response to current challenges, maybe as a result of COVID-19 alone, but a necessary step towards future-proofing education by addressing infrastructure needs, providing teacher training, adapting curricula and then remodeling them, and developing engagement strategies. Schools can effectively integrate virtual learning and prepare for the future. So what's our call to action as a roundup? Educational institutions, policymakers, stakeholders must work together to create an environment that supports the effective integration of virtual learning all across, from the elementary to secondary and to the higher learning of institutions. By taking these proactive steps today, we can ensure that schools are ready to meet the educational demands of tomorrow. Thank you very much for having me and for listening. I don't know if there will be room for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olofinnika, for that wonderful session. Let me check if there's some questions I would like to ask. It says, what are the challenges of maintaining student engagement in virtual learning, and how can it be mitigated? And also considering this part of the country where talking about network and the basic things that we need for virtual learning, how can we overcome these challenges in the global south?
Well, just like I mentioned earlier in my presentations, we have about three stages of virtual learning. We have the synchronous, that's where we have the real-time interaction between the teachers and the learners. We have the asynchronic, and that's about where there's the students have a kind of ready-made programs that they can have access to online, and they can as well learn at their own pace, which would be a solution to maybe the challenges you're talking about. Sorry, I didn't get the first question. I think I'm attending the second one now. The first one was what?
What are the challenges of maintaining student engagement in virtual learning environments, and how can challenges be mitigated?
Okay. Yeah, there are greater chances of distractions during virtual learning, knowing that, there's a difference in space and time between teachers and the learners. So I think it is on the part of the teachers or instructors to ensure that their classes are engaging, their classes are a kind of collaborations where there are lots of engaging materials that would arouse the attention of learners and then will keep them up. And as much as possible, it should be between the stipulated time so that they don't get bored, and then keep them away from distractions. Thank you.
Let me take one question before we round up the section.
Okay.
It's from Sani Musa in the comments in the question and answer section. He's asking, how can we ensure cultural sensitivity and relevance in virtual environmental education? How can we ensure cultural sensitivity and relevance in virtual environmental education?
Oh, well, that borders more basically on the fact that everyone must be seen as important. In fact, virtual learning is a tool that actually promotes cultural sensitivity. It promotes relevance. It gives equal access to all learners, no segregation. And it's a tool that can actually promote sensitivity to other people, talking about maybe cyberbullying and all that. There must be proper education, there must be proper orientation, and basically the instructors or teachers have a role in this part. They have a role to play, and policies must be given. And that's why I mentioned earlier that government as well, who are in control, must put a kind of standard or a guideline that would actually monitor the activities going on in virtual learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful response.
Because
of our time, we won't be able to take more questions, but we still have some questions in the Q&A section. I don't know if Dr. when you're out of this section, you can help us to give answers to some of them in the chat box.
Okay.
We are really grateful for coming. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us today. And
thank you very much. Thank you.
You're where we invite you
nice
for other events.
Of course. I hope so.
Join us again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
No problem. Thank you. God bless.